This man, yeah. So I was like, I'd rather talk to someone I know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk. Do you understand what that means? What do we?
Yeah,
hang on. Before we chat, what do you want to chat? What are we going to chat about?
Well,
There's loads of things we could chat
what happened the
about.
last couple of days? What happened the last couple of days?
What, are we talking politics?
Yeah. If you don't want to know.
No, bring me up to speed. You know, I'm more about ethics and teleology and stuff like that and philosophy. When it comes to politics, it gets... I know less. Okay, that's all. I want to be fair-minded. I want what's good, but I don't think I'm as well informed necessarily. But go on, what's the topic?
What did we speak about last time? Oh, you WhatsApped me the other day. Yeah, you went to a mosque, I believe.
Yeah, I've been to a few now actually.
Okay.
Just filming with a Muslim convert friend of mine. It's been good. We went to the Woking Mosque.
Yes, that's it.
What's the name of it? Shah Jahan Mosque. That was
Right.
very cool. There's a video of it. It's worth checking out. It's good. Happy Histories with Michael. It's a video on the first mosque in the UK, purpose-built mosque. It's a beautiful place. Very nice.
Okay. Your views have changed over the years now.
I'm just trying to relax as much as possible and have love in my heart, honestly, and not carry around tension and anger and frustration. And there's a lot of that about now politically, and I just want to find ways so we can get back to each other and get on, because there's no way that we're removing everyone.
You might
who's
want
not
that over there.
white and he isn't Christian in this country. We have to learn to get on.
Because I've also got the live stream about a mic, so I need to be a bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah. What were we talking about last time? Do you remember?
I don't know. I'm interested in epistemic hierarchies, which we've discussed, but I'm always happy to go into that again.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the idea that we phrase our questions themselves wrong by framing them as yes, no, black, right, good, bad,
Yeah.
and they should be framed on sliding scale.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the fact value axis, particularly, because I think that's been misunderstood. I'm interested in the fact that I think the words objective and subjective are constantly being misused now in a way that's so foundational in our culture, I think cross-culturally, that it's become very difficult to have a constructive. We've got to deconstruct what we mean by those words, because I don't think people know what they mean by them anymore. I know what we think we're alluding to when we go, hey, it's objective, it's subjective. But in reality, I think you've got to dig a bit deeper, because I don't think it means what people think it means. So there's a lot of discourse problem and a lot of using the wrong words or using different language to describe the same thing, which means we've got a lot of miscommunication. So like some people use the word morals to mean what ethics is, and some people use ethics to mean what morals is. You need one word for values of good and bad, which are derived from the culture. You need another word for morals of good or bad that arrive in your nature a priori. One of them is morals, the other is ethics, and people use them in different ways, and so we're increasingly in Babel, I think.
Yeah.
You know the Tower of Babel story?
Not quite.
In the Bible, it's when everybody, suddenly God makes them speak a different language.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I think there's a fundamental kind of problem at the level of semiotics and symbols and language itself. But that's because I spend so much time thinking at that foundational level. But you want to talk politics, it sounds like.
Yeah, but because that's something which I wanted, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. We had...
I'll tell you what, you steer me into a political thing on the basis I know I don't know very much, but I'll try and talk in good faith. Then maybe if you want we can...
But I don't want to put you in a position where you're not comfortable.
What's the issue? I feel that I'm not comfortable.
No, I just thought you wanted to talk about politics. Last time we were speaking about Israel-Palestine.
Okay, I asked you the question about what should be the statute of limitations. I think that's an important axiomic question. The statute of limitations, on when there's been an historical injustice. How long should the statute of limitations perpetuate before you start to go, okay, we recognise there was an injustice, but to some extent we've got to start putting it in the past. We can't keep it as actively alive as we would do if it happened yesterday. Yeah? I think that's an important question to ask, and if I've got any good ability, I ask good questions, and I think that is one. I don't hear many people answer.
Yeah, I think that's still something I'm unsure about.
Great.
Because when it comes to, for example, the Native Americans, that's not too far in history. You know, it's only like 300 years that they've been usurped from their land.
Okay.
So that's like a good case study for that as well.
How do you evaluate?
To be honest, the reason I got you in is because there's a guy who barged into my conversation, and I was like, I'm not talking to you.
Am I just your way of getting out
Yeah,
of the conversation?
I was like, I'm going to talk to someone I like to talk to.
Okay.
So then I thought, but anyways, it's fine. We can talk.
I'll talk about any of the things I just mentioned, which are deep topics.
Yeah.
But let's go for the statute of limitations then, seriously.
Yeah, that's
I like the fact that you go, I'm not sure. I think that's a really good answer. Do you recognise it's an important question for everybody to address?
I do, and at the same time, I believe that some realities take place which make you change your positions because of sociological reasons as opposed to territorial reasons, right? So for example, say in America, you have the Apache tribe or whatever, and they say this is our land, and it's always been our land and blah, blah, blah. But if you've now had a lot of immigration and there's a lot of people that have moved in, and then somehow say the Apaches, they come to power. I don't think they're simply going to remove those people and just kick them out and send them back to Ireland or Holland or whatever.
If the Apaches become what?
If they become powerful, if they take control of things.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So there will be that, what's that term that you used?
Statute of limitations?
Yeah.
Well, it's in law. I mean, in law we go certain crimes, tax evasion or something, after credit card fraud, but don't sound out as a thing. 3 years in America, credit card fraud, after that it doesn't matter, right?
But
So
there's certain crimes that are never forgiven, like murder.
Probably shouldn't be.
Let me return these mics actually.
You need to what?
Let me return these mics to the guys. Where's the guys going? Because normally I walk away with the mics and it causes them trouble.
They can probably work it out.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, statute of limitations. In America, it's not about the power, it's about the ethics of the thing. Ethically, if we all agree the current Americans, they effectively stole America from the Indians, yeah? So we agree that was wrong. We write the history books that it was wrong.
Do you want to take your mic?
That's not my...
We agree that it was wrong. We should write the history books that it was wrong. But at what point do we go, okay, now we understand that the conqueror owns the land? Because it parallels what's going on in Israel-Gaza. Yeah? It was now 80 years ago. If it was yesterday, I'd feel differently about it. Yeah? The Nakba, if the Nakba was yesterday, if I've understood the Nakba right, if 750,000 people were unethically displaced, if it was that brutally simplistic, it probably isn't. It's probably more of a mixed bag, but nonetheless, on the balance of the argument, with my little knowledge, for the minute I believe there was an injustice, of displacement. If that happened yesterday, I'd feel differently about it. 80 years ago it was done by a bunch of people who are now dead, for the most part, to a bunch of people who are dead, for the most part. That should, to me, somehow change the context.
But there's something to consider here, which is, if Israel accepts the Palestinians that simply fled in 1948 back into the state, we believe as Muslims, all from the river to the sea is all occupied. But let's just say hypothetically, those people were allowed back in.
Right, that's the right to return.
Yeah, the right to return,
Right,
which the Israelis deny.
Which I'm in favour of.
Which the Israelis deny totally. Because already I think 18% of Israel is Arab.
Right.
Yeah. They know that's going to screw up their demographic and the Palestinians can win elections, and that's why they're worried about the birth rate as well. So I don't even think they're going to come to the point of allowing people back into occupied Palestine.
Now you're answering the question, what will they do? I'm trying to address the question, what should they do? They're different questions. I'm looking at the ethics. Ethically, I agree with the right to return. Based on the axiom I gave you, the person is still alive, they were removed from the house they bought in good faith at gunpoint or whatever, therefore they have an ethical claim to get it back. They did nothing wrong. Those specific individuals should get those things back, or at minimum be compensated. And people who may have committed murder or profound abuse in the process, if they're still alive, they should be held to account.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable? Once people are dead, I'm not sure I should be held accountable for what my father did in the same way.
So,
is that fair?
I agree, you can't pass on the sin generationally.
Good.
However, for example, Northern Ireland, despite it being occupied for centuries, the British had to give it up. At least they had to give up Southern Ireland, right? So there are territorial claims which, no matter how long it's been, if those people are still alive, like for example the Aborigines, they're gone, right?
No, there are Aborigines alive. You've got a very different opinion on that.
Yeah, you have very small pockets, but
they're alive. They count. They're real people, and their land did get taken historically.
no, they are, and I'm not denying their right.
Okay.
I'm not denying their right. What I'm saying is, sometimes when you have those people who are indigenous to the land who've been pretty much wiped off the territory, there's no threat to that state, which in the case of, for example, America, they just put them in reservations, right? And they think that's justified compensation. I don't think it is. In the case of Israel and Nakba and what happened in 1948, we have to look at overall, I appreciate, look, from my perspective, I appreciate you're going to have a different lens to me because you're going to be looking at it from a purely rational perspective. I'm looking
ethical and rational.
Yeah, ethical and rational.
And utilitarian.
But yeah.
So in the interest of the greater number of people, irrespective of their nation, their tribe, you want the best for all, and you want people who have transgressed to be held accountable, and people who've had an injustice to get compensation. That's what we're aiming. That's what I'm aiming for.
So, but I also have a theological aspect.
Damn. Do we have to bring in the theological?
For me, theology is the queen of the sciences. For me, we're going to disagree. We're going to disagree.
Unfortunately, we are going to disagree.
So, for me, it's very clear. And in fact, here's an interesting thought experiment. From a from a consequentialist perspective, I still believe the best solution for all of the people is to go back to the status quo prior to the British occupation of Palestine.
Which we've got one state where they're integrated and it's relatively harmonious, allegedly.
Okay. So let's keep something in mind, which is let's keep something in mind, which is when the Muslims first entered Palestine, going back to the 8th century, when they first entered. Right, around that time.
Listen, I simply don't know this data. Not really, not with any certainty at all.
Sorry?
The history lesson you're giving me now.
Oh, sure.
I'm kind of not.
Okay, so it's the second Caliph of Islam, Umar bin al-Khattab. He entered into occupied Palestine. So he entered that territory, and he was asked by one of the church leaders to come and pray in the Holy Church. And he said, I'm not going to pray inside the church because the Muslims after me will basically take over the church and make it into a mosque. So from the earliest times, there was a tolerance of other faiths within that area. Now, the Romans had kicked out all of the Jews. No idea what's going on. No idea what's going on there. The speaker's corner, as we can imagine. What's the last thing I said?
We're back. Can I chuck in for a minute? From where I'm coming from, no offence, I don't that much care what happened 800 years ago.
But what I'm trying to show is we have a model that worked for 1300 years. For 1300 years, Jews...
You coexisted.
Yeah, Jews, Muslims, Christians, we coexisted
Yeah.
And in fact, the golden era of Judaism happened under Islamic rule.
Okay, well then hang on, let me cut in.
And
We can
that's
agree.
important to show,
Okay.
look,
Well then the question is, we can agree, the ideal would be coexistence, a harmonious coexistence.
without Zionism.
In a single state.
Yeah, without Zionism, because
Okay,
a lot.
without
Yeah,
Zionism or whatever.
because we have to distinguish between Jews and Zionism, because often we hear it's the Muslims trying to kick out the Jews, and that's not the case.
Okay, we agree. Single state is ideal. Yeah? However, right now, I don't see any way that these two communities could integrate peacefully. So as an interim measure, two states seems to be the only pragmatic way to help to step you towards that idea. You're not going to make it in one move. It's going to need at least a generation of people getting to know each other and trust one another again before they can live harmoniously. If you put all those people in one state right now, they're going to rip each other to pieces.
Okay,
you know.
so here's.
Is that reasonable? They're not going to get on well.
I don't agree with that solution, and the reason I don't agree with that solution.
As a stepping stone solution to the one state we both agree is the ideal.
Okay, so the reason why I don't agree with that is because the very ideology of Zionism and their claims makes them a genocidal state, even before what they did in Gaza 2 years ago. When they started.
We're talking about a one-state solution where you don't have the likes of Hamas or fundamental Zionism at play, because neither of them are an asset to that community.
Okay, so let's be very precise about this.
Yeah.
Going back to the history which I mentioned, and the reason why I was very particular about the history.
Yeah.
The situation prior to the British occupation of Palestine is the best for the interests of all of the three faiths. That is in the interest of the three faiths, okay?
But you had a massive influx of Jewish immigrants.
That wasn't the problem.
Really?
That wasn't the problem. That was not the problem.
Oh, shit.
That was not the problem. There's actually a picture where Jews from Europe are coming in after the Holocaust, or during the Holocaust, I believe, and they have a banner which says something like,
Hitler destroyed our dreams, don't you dare do the same.
yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that, right?
They said what?
They destroyed our...
Hitler, I think it's something like Hitler.
Do I know you from somewhere?
Yeah.
Hayes. Oh man, it's an old friend. How are you doing, man? Oh, I haven't seen this guy in years. Okay, so don't destroy our dreams. The Germans.
Something like, don't you dare destroy, Hitler destroyed our dreams, don't you dare do the same.
Yeah, so basically the Palestinians welcomed them. So it wasn't, you see, this is one of the myths of Zionism, which is they can't accept the Jews, that's why the Muslims are going crazy. That's not true at all. That's not true at all.
I never said that.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is they believe, and this is one of their, I know you never said that, their narratives is the uprest began because there was a Jewish influx. That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true. The uprising began and the unrest began because of the Balfour Declaration.
Okay.
And the Balfour Declaration was a declaration where a colonial power was creating an asset in the Middle East.
Right.
So the land of what they call Israel, we call occupied Palestine, the pre-1967 borders, all of those areas previously were all Palestine. And what happened is the British gave a mandate for the creation of this state, and this state was going to be from the beginning a genocidal state, because it was about Zionist supremacy, which is why the Nakba happened, which is why what happened in 1948. Because if you imagine, for example, Pakistan was created around the same time, and in Pakistan there was nothing about the ideology of Pakistan, or later on the ideology of Bangladesh when it got its independence, which said we will not allow any minorities. But the very foundation of the Zionist state was such that they were going to be genocidal, which is why they became genocidal, right? Which is why they...
a whole lot of things I'm not sure I can rubber stamp.
Okay, let's see what you disagree with.
You're asserting that they had a, quote, genocidal intent.
Yes.
As a point of fact, That's a very extreme claim. I'm not saying that Zionism as a substrand of Jewish politics isn't pretty objectionable. The idea God gave us this land, anybody else can go away, it's ours, is totally objectionable. But I don't think most Jewish people are that extreme. You really think they are?
Okay, so this is why.
That your position?
So Zionism, it has a lot of followers all across the world, and a lot of the followers who are giving it material and financial support are Christians today.
Let's define Zionism, please.
Okay,
Give me a definition.
Zionism is a political ideology which is secular in its nature, which claims that the land of occupied Palestine, all of it, in fact, it extends further. It extends into other countries.
I can ignore the God claims, because a number of Zionists like Netanyahu recently, which appalls me, is still seeming to be making claims on the political stage where he says God gave us this land. And I'm like, no mate, you cannot argue political cases based on divine intervention.
Yeah.
You just can't. Even if God did give you the land and God's on your side, you still can't conduct the UN on that basis. You can't have all these different tribes coming in and going, Allah says this, Jesus says that, Muhammad, you just can't. It's not practical or functional, and so we should just get rid of that whole dimension.
The early Zionists, they were seculars. And what you'll also find, they wanted Jews to be terrified. There was actually actions that they took to make the lives of Jews elsewhere more miserable, so they migrate to occupied Palestine, including in Iraq.
Let's assume all that's true, but if we rewind back to the topic was statute of limitations. Everything you're describing happened outside the statute of limitations that we've discussed, and pretty much 80 years, nearly all the people you're talking about who did these things are dead.
But the ideology is alive.
Okay, fine, but nonetheless, there's a point of fact that people are dead, and I'm saying I think that should have a significant impact on the context within which you view these things. So no matter what happened in 800 BC or 800 AD or whatever, or when Netanyahu claims about 3,000 years ago, I don't care. These are aggressive arguments which are holding the whole thing back. We need to bring it more up to date. Who's alive now who did bad stuff? Who's alive now who suffered? They should get compensated or they should be punished.
Sure.
And then you need to kind of move forward in a utilitarian frame.
To begin off with, let's point out what the culprit is.
Fine.
If we ignore 1948...
I'm not saying ignore
No. For the sake of a thought experiment.
Okay. I wasn't proposing we ignore it. I'm saying we should recontextualize.
Fine, recontextualize it, okay? What led to 1948 is same thing that led to 2023 till now, the genocide that's happened, which is the Zionist ideology, which is a genocidal ideology. It's an ideology of supremism. It's an ideology which has this myth of these people who believe they have the right to genocide other people and to replace them. So until and unless the ideology is dealt with, you'll have another genocide, you'll have another killing, you'll have continuous destruction, and the two-state solution that you're talking about will not happen.
Is the genocide allegation implicit to your claim, or can we assume for a minute it's not implicit? It may or may not be the case, because I think genocide is a very extreme claim. You might be undermining yourself by using it.
I believe...
If you want to claim apartheid, apartheid is bad enough.
Okay, so look, put it this way. I believe...
As Piers Morgan pointed out...
Yeah. By the way, he's a shill. He's a Zionist shill.
No, I don't buy that. Sorry, okay, I don't. From what I've seen, Piers Morgan, over the series of those debates, he's held to exactly the right question, what is a proportional response. He's tried to look at it from both sides, and he's increasingly now coming down in favour of the Palestinian position and being increasingly critical of Israel in a way I think is totally appropriate. And to just dismiss him as a shill seems to me...
I'll tell you why I believe he is. Look, some of my friends have directly interacted with him and been on his interviews. I've seen his stuff. I'll tell you why. Okay, I'll tell you why he's a shill.
Actually, let's not go into it. You think he's a shill, I don't.
Okay.
I'm doing it on the merit of what he says, even if he personally is. The argument about proportionality is the right question.
Okay, so wait, let me just make this small point about him. In 2014, he was criticizing the Zionist government for what it was doing because of the bombing campaigns. He peddled known lies about 40 beheaded babies, about the rapes, things which are now completely debunked.
I don't know if you can wait.
And
Saboor, I think we're two of the better people who debate down here. Let's try and play the ball, not the man. I happen to mention Piers Morgan in passing, not as an authority.
fine, let's ignore him. Let's ignore
just
him.
ignore
Yeah.
him.
Fine, but
The ball that got played was he said that even Rwanda was not found to be a genocide. Okay?
but it was though.
Okay,
Okay,
I heard you said
okay,
the International
but you-
Criminal
but you-
Court
but you-
has not as yet said that Rwanda was a genocide.
Okay, but
So no state has actually...
the head of the ICJ turned out to be a Zionist recently, and she believes she's on God's side and she needs to protect Israel. Yeah, Christian Zionist, right? So look,
As
you
a
made
point of fact, was Rwanda found by the international courts to be a genocide, yes or no?
I don't know that.
Okay,
I don't know about
okay,
Rwanda. I don't know
to be
about
honest,
Rwanda.
I don't know.
But
he
for
is
me,
very
but for me, the ICJ declaring something to be a genocide or not being a genocide does not mean that I will give that thing weight, because I see them as
His
controlled opposition by the
His
Israelis.
point being that even in the history of all the terrible things which have happened in the 20th century, in the 21st century, no crime of genocide has actually been found to date. So anyone
not
who's
true.
making a claim of genocide
That's
on
not
either
true.
side is really at the cutting edge of what's being
Okay,
sanctioned.
we'll ignore this because we disagree
How
here.
about we just do it like Chisholm? How about we just think of it, to me, I think thinking in terms of genocide or terrorist, these are not useful terms. Because people will spend forever arguing.
Okay, so let's go to the meta narrative.
Wait, wait,
Yeah.
let me run with it, please. Because what I said at the beginning about language, I have watched so many debates get sidetracked by people arguing, what do you mean by terrorism, what do you mean by terrorism, what do you mean by terrorism, yeah? And any bad actor can use it to send you off on a side road and deflect from the main point you should be heading for. Ditto with genocide. Is it genocide, is it genocide, is it genocide? Whatever. The point is, Israel's behaviour in Gaza seems to me to be inappropriate, yeah? That's enough, it's bad. Now, I don't need to justify whether it's bad because it's genocide, it's bad because it's... Once something's bad, you act on it. You don't spend more time wasting about the bloody small print. So instead of worrying about is it this or is it that, once you know it's bad, deal with it. Let's just agree it's wrong. It's too much.
I'll tell you why it's important. I see your point why you
see
think...
it slows the thing up.
No, I don't think so. Because the point I was making is that the Zionist ideology will necessarily lead to these types of brutal killings.
And we're both anti-Zionist, so we agree. Zionism, but you
I
see
think
Zionism as being implicit in the Israeli nation and the Jewish people. If you think it's inevitable and implicit across the vast swathe of them, then we've agreed we object to it, but it's a form of extremism. And I'm anti-extremism on whatever.
so. Here's the thing. I do not think there's anything about Judaism which necessarily leads to Zionism.
Good. Okay, that's an important
Yeah,
statement.
that is.
That is a very important
Yeah.
statement. So
Say-
you can be Jewish and you can be Israeli without being a Zionist. Yeah?
No,
Ah.
no. Because to be an Israeli, you have to be a Zionist.
No, because you've defined a Zionist as being genocidal, therefore what you're saying is logically, based on what you've said so far, you've said to be an Israeli you have to be a Zionist, and Zionists are genocidal, therefore to be an Israeli is to be genocidal.
Yes.
Ah,
I'll explain to you why.
okay, no, dude.
I'll explain
really,
to you why.
no, Really,
I'll explain to you why.
Do you not realise how inflammatory that is?
Okay, so I'll explain to you exactly why. If you, as a person, subscribe to your government's position and your state's position, which explicitly shows the other to be dehumanized, shows the other to be subhuman.
I get it,
Okay.
I get it. But you made an if statement.
Okay,
And the if statement is
okay.
if you do.
Okay.
Do you not concede
Okay,
that
okay.
there is a large percentage of Israelis who do not subscribe?
That's not true. That's
Okay.
not true.
Do you concede-
Okay, so let
do you
me.
concede there's at least
okay,
one Israeli who
okay.
does not
One
subscribe?
second. Let me give you an example. This is a really good example.
Whatever the example is.
There is a Israeli human rights organization. I think they're called Bet Selem.
You're making the claim.
No, but one second. Let me explain to you. These guys. Okay. I am not saying you do not have people like them existing. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying...
Sorry, who are they and why are they relevant to your claim?
They are an Israeli group which has called what's happening in Gaza genocide.
Fine, okay. So presumably they're not Zionists according to your definition.
Okay, so let me just explain something. There are people inside Israel, including Christian Palestinians, Muslim Palestinians, and I'm sure Jews as well, Orthodox especially, who do not believe in being in that state, but they are forced to be in that state. Okay?
So they're not ideological Zionists.
They're not Zionists by definition.
So my claim.
But
no, wait. Then rewind the conversation. So if you're watching, I'm not trying to, but rewind it. You said all Israelis are Zionists and Zionists are pro-genocide, and that statement's not true.
So
some Israelis are Zionists, which may or may not be genocidal, but either way it's objectionable. But not all Israelis are. That's the context within which we've got to view these people. You seem to be tarring them all with the same brush. Okay. And that's not the way to get any progress in this thing, nor is I think is a realistic representation of a demographic of 9 million people, 2 million of whom are Arab.
Okay, so I'm not saying every single person in Israel supports the genocide.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Well, that's something that you said was incorrect in the initial claim.
The Arabs, the Christians, and the Orthodox Jews, and I'm sure some others as well, don't. However, the ideology of Zionism, which is subscribed to by the majority of the Israeli public, and by the way, I was looking for a poll, and I'm sure you trust me on this because I did read this poll, where a poll was conducted in Israel, where the majority of Israel, they actually were supporting the government actions of what's happening in Gaza. So they are genocidal writ large as a society.
If they are genocidal writ large, if what's happening in Gaza is a genocide.
Okay.
It predicates on that assertion.
Okay. It does, and that's where we disagree. I say it's a genocide, you say it's not a genocide. But we can agree.
I'm saying I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I feel that you got 2 million people, and you've got
200,000, according to one of the Israeli military officials, are dead or injured.
Okay, let's take it as 2 million people.
Okay.
Let's say 2 million people, and you've got 10%.
But the official figures are 60,000 dead.
Well, okay.
Officially dead.
The Israeli guy who went on Piers Morgan, he got screwed over by Piers, who really laid into him heavily, and good on him too, to establish it was at least 90,000 if you use Israeli's own figures. This guy.
Okay, I haven't heard that.
Okay, so I haven't heard. Watching. Okay, Morgan hammered this guy.
He's doing that because he got exposed. He got exposed as a Zionist asset.
Every time, again, let's play the ball. Okay, I played the man in this instance, so you're counteracting. Okay. If you decided that Pierce is a bad guy, fine. I've got issues with him. I don't think he's a wonderful human being on a number of other counts, maybe. But on this issue, he seems to be being consistent and supporting arguments.
He's controlled opposition. And you're smart enough to know that when you have such a huge public uproar like we have, when it comes to the genocide in Gaza, you need controlled opposition, and Piers Morgan is controlled opposition. So what they do is they bring him out, and even now, if you notice...
They bring him out?
Yeah, the Israelis.
So he's an Israeli...
For me, he's a shill. He's an Israeli shill. In fact, there's a guy online, what's his name, Loki something.
Got a really strange way. The Israelis have got a very strange way of kicking the shit out of themselves in public repeatedly. Because if you're actually paying attention to what's happening there, he's tearing them a new arse.
Okay. So
very, very consistent.
You know, in America,
the main point he's making, again, I'll totally play the ball. The one attack I would make of Israel, which I think is absolutely irrefutable, which he's hammered again and again and again.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking up a reference for you. Yeah, go on.
The one that anybody can understand, you don't need to understand the history or anything. Yeah. The one thing that any layman to this conflict can understand, that Morgan has relentlessly said, is you should let the press in. Any country that won't let the press in to report on a situation, then instantly you've got to suspect their motive, and the onus of proof must be on them to explain why their behaviour is correct. Any idiot can understand that and it's correct. Instead of hammering on about, no offence, I say hammering on, I know these are people's lives, instead of getting caught up in what's a terrorist and what's a genocide, just play that flag again and again. Don't get distracted, just go, we want the press in, we want the press in. Anyone can understand it. It's ethically and logically ideologically such a concrete punch to the
Okay,
face.
I don't agree with that.
Why not?
Okay. That is presuming there is no press on the ground.
Well, there's no free press at the moment on the
There
ground
is.
reporting.
There is. There is.
Oh, this is getting weird. What?
They are independent journalists who've been hired on the ground, and the narrative that Piers is sending out is we need international, and we should, I support him in that we should have international press going in. However, there are journalists on the ground.
Hang on, I'm not saying they're not. Surely you know I didn't mean that. I mean that Israel is not letting in international journalists who would normally cover a war. The default normally is international journalists come in.
But there is a narrative which
Do you
is
believe Israel should let in the
no,
100%,
100%.
Okay, so we agree. And that's an idea any idiot
no,
can
no, no.
understand.
But here's something I don't agree with.
What?
The news channels which are saying we can't get the news to you when there's independent journalists who are documenting the genocide, and they're like, no, they're not like us. What does that mean?
I don't know. Personally, I'm not an expert enough on the mechanics, the micro-mechanics of how different news agencies work. But what I do know is right now,
so for example,
if I'm a representative from the Independent,
I'll give you an example.
I can't get in there to report.
I'll
If
give you
I'm
an-
from the Times, I can't get in there. If I'm from, whatever other news agency you may trust, I can't get in there.
Okay, so look,
and you should be able to.
let's talk about our eastern flank. Let's talk about Ukraine.
Why aren't you just agreeing with me on this?
No,
Why isn't it straightforward?
no. I agree that journalists should be allowed into Gaza. Nobody disagrees.
We agree that the fact that Israel won't let them in is in and of itself sufficient grounds to assume that they are the bad actors in this conflict. Yes?
We have enough reason for that, of course.
No, but if
of
you
course.
want a clear reason that even a layman who just arrived
No, but
could understand,
th-
who doesn't need to know the history, who doesn't need to understand...
No, we agree about this. We agree about this.
So why not use the Occam razor type attack that are being used in this instance and concentrate on those tactical arguments to win your case, rather than constant... I've watched Mohammed Hijab's history of what happened in the Israel conflict. I've watched yours. I've watched Ben Shapiro. I've done my best to look into things. It takes a lot of time. You hear so many different views. You can watch Normal Finkelstein debate it forever. Yeah, you can go backwards and forwards to the point when it can become inert and you don't actually just deal with the problem. You want to deal with the problem. Try and use simple axiomic attacks. This is one of them.
This is one of them, but there is a presumption which I wanted to challenge, and that presumption is the journalists on the ground are being constantly ignored by the Western media, and I wanted to highlight that.
Okay, fine.
Because we're being told, sorry guys, we can't report because there's no journalists there, no international journalists there. When the Ukrainian journalists are liaising independently with the BBC and Sky News, the Palestinian journalists are ignored. That's the hypocrisy I'm pointing out, with Piers and others.
I don't...
Do you see my point?
know the degree to which Palestinian journalists are being ignored.
They are. And do you know? This is it.
How can I know that what you're saying is
how
true?
you can is this.
You know it?
Okay. How you can know it is this. Look at all of the, other than Al Jazeera and other than Al Arabiya and other than a few of these news channels, go and see Sky News, BBC News and all these Western outlets and see how many Palestinian journalists they're accepting from Gaza.
It's a parallel claim. Let's assume that you're right, although I'm not saying I do believe that you're right, because I don't think either of us can really know that much there. It doesn't change my primary assertion. Just hammer Israel for not letting in the free press internationally. Their back is to the wall.
No, we will do that anyway.
Good.
That's going to be done. However, but remember why we sort of went on this.
Focus on the fact that they should declare how many nuclear weapons they've got. Internationally, every nation on the planet should declare how many nukes they've got. They're very dangerous, and mutually assured destruction, the future of the species, depends on us knowing. Any nation that doesn't declare how many nukes it's got, there should be international embargoes on, as far as I'm concerned. That's something anybody can understand.
Yeah, the destruction of Gaza is exactly what would happen if you did drop a nuclear bomb.
How does that pertain to it? Do you not agree with what I just said?
No, I do agree, but I'm just making a point, which is, it's already happened.
We should sanction any nation. It's not specific to Israel or the conflict. Any nation that doesn't declare how many nukes it's got should be sanctioned, I think.
Yeah.
Any idiot can understand
I don't disagree with
any
that.
nation that doesn't let journalists in to cover a conflict should be sanctioned.
I think, Tony, I know what you're doing.
I'm making it really block
No,
simple.
I've worked out what you're doing. You're taking, say, you've listened to the Muslim side, you've listened to the other side, and there's a common denominator, and there's common things that you believe should be agreed on all sides, and you're saying use that as your argument, including free journalists, including they shouldn't have nuclear weapons. That's what you seem to be saying.
I seem to be saying you have key weapons at your disposal, axioms, irrefutable axioms, which can be deployed in this ethically, accurately deployed in this conflict. I can show you where...
so we agree about this.
We do, but the strategy which is then being used in micromanaging arguments about potential conspiracy theories and stuff, no one's ever been able to prove. You will come up with various allegations about the media, they will say it's conspiracy theories, we the layman and the public will never really know which the truth is. But the arguments I'm presenting, any idiot can understand and back. They're ethically solvent axioms. Free press always, declare your nukes. That's two things.
Okay, so can I add a third to that? Can I add a third?
Yeah, if you've got a third concrete axiom.
A third.
What you got?
What's interesting about what you just did there is that even a Zionist supporter, a Christian Zionist supporter, they wouldn't really have anything to say about the nukes or about the free press. It's very hard to defend.
Yeah, exactly.
However, there's one more thing, which is the Zionist ideology in of itself should be banned because it's genocidal. For example, if it is genocidal, then I totally agree it should be banned.
If your assertion that it's implicitly genocidal, I'm sure if I went into to a Zionist, they would go no, and then I could watch you argue with them forever as to whether or not it was.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I and the rest of the voting public are trying to help in so far as we can to actually, in a utilitarian way, help the people in Gaza dying on the ground and try and deal with the problem as fast, as quickly and as cogently and clearly as possible. Minimum conspiracy theories, minimum fog of war.
Okay, so how about this as an axiom? Zionism is genocidal inherently by its nature, therefore it should be banned and it should play no role in the future occupied territories.
Okay, I'll qualify that. If, it's an if statement, we both know logic and syllogism. If Zionism is inherently genocidal, then yes, it should be banned. We can agree. But what will be the point of contention is whether or not Zionism is implicitly
I'll tell you something I did recently, and this helped me understand the nature of genocide. I went to the Rwanda memorial for the Tutsis, because the genocide was being done by the Hutus against the Tutsis. One of the things with genocide scholars, because genocide is a science. There's people who've specialized in genocide, in the history of genocide, in the not just the consequences of genocide, but the preliminary conditions which are needed for a genocide to take place. And the agreement amongst the genocide scholars is this: for a genocide to take place before the first stabbing and killing, you have to dehumanize the other.
Now we're on psychology. Yes, inevitably.
And the Zionist narrative from the very beginning, or from the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, all the way through to their military officials, has been to describe the Palestinians as subhumans.
I agree. We know that dehumanization will cut off the line of empathy, which will then enable you to abuse and torture and kill people, We also know that traffic works both ways, It's not like all of the Israelis are dehumanizing the Palestinians and none of the Palestinians are dehumanizing any of the Jews. There's realistic traffic both ways.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I'll tell you why.
Sorry,
I'll tell you.
How do you feel about Hamas? I should just be clear how you feel about Hamas.
I believe Hamas only exists because of everything that Israel has done. Now, that doesn't mean that I believe in the killing of civilians. I believe in any of those things.
Okay,
I do
fine.
not.
We're clear that we don't agree with the killing of civilians.
We do not agree with the killing of
I don't like
civilians.
the killing of combatants.
Okay,
I don't like combatants
okay.
just are automatically treated like.
See the difference,
they're
and I had a debate with a Zionist recently, and he said, "Do you condemn the killing of civilians?" I said yes.
Good.
And then I said to him, "Do you condemn the killing of civilians?" He wouldn't answer.
Well, then he's clearly won that round of the debate.
Okay, so the difference is this: we are being told that the Palestinians are dehumanizing Jews. That's not true.
I'm not saying that assertion.
Yeah.
I look at the Palestinians and the Israelis as 18 million people, I think. Yeah? Combined? Amongst a demographic of 18 million people, I don't think all of them are one thing or one mindset.
Okay.
There is a spectrum within each of those demographics, and you've got to attune to it. One of the reasons you get all of these conflicts is we oversimplify and polarize and go, everybody in that team is the same thing. They're not.
Okay, so can I?
I'm interested in the middle ground,
Okay.
humanistic Palestinians and Israelis.